Hey everybody, Grace here. Welcome to another video. The GOAT Format War League Season 4 is upon us. If you don't know what the War League is, let me explain it in less than a minute. I've even made this horrible looking animation to help illustrate. The War League is a team-based Yu-Gi-Oh series. The structure is somewhat similar to that of like a sports league. There's a regular season to determine which of the top teams will compete in the playoffs to determine your GOAT Format War League champion. Teams are composed of up to 8 duelists, but during the regular season, only 5 start for the week. Right as the week begins, duelists will be randomly paired against an opponent from the opposing team, and they have a week to play their match. The first team to win 3 out of the 5 matches wins the war for the week. You then have to face a different team the next week. This repeats over nearly 3 months, and the teams with the best records move on to the bracketed playoffs. All right, and today we are going to preview and predict Season 4, the upcoming season of the War League. I have 2 incredible guests with me here today. First, hot off of a second place finish at the GOAT Format World Championships, he's an FLC champion, Shifty. Shifty, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'd just like to say Grace is a fantastic YouTuber, and he's honestly made some great videos. And if you haven't subscribed, then please do subscribe to him.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, Shifty. Appreciate it. And also joining me here today is none other than a GGP champion, 3v3 champion, GOAT Format War League champion, and of course, YCS champion, Marcus Hayden. Marcus, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Love all the GOAT format and retro format content. So excited to be a part of it.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to sit down and go through these rosters. We're going to take a look at each team, and we're going to give a predicted end of season record, basically, how we think the teams are going to finish at the regular season. Now, remember, everybody, this is a subjective opinion. I know how things are on the internet. So, if we say that your team's not going to do well, don't take it personally, right? This is just a subjective take at the season, and you know what? Prove us wrong. Have a great season. So I guess first, before we dive into the rosters themselves, I wanted to ask you guys one question before we start, and that is, if somebody's been in the War League, they might already understand this to a certain extent, but how do you strategize? How is the strategy different in War League with predicting decks and, making deck lists as opposed to just a regular tournament? How is it different?
Yeah, so for me, and our team specifically, we kind of focus on a range of decks that our opponents could be on based on what they've succeeded with in the past, what they've been playing in recent events, as well as previous War League weeks. Whereas for a tournament, you kind of know a general field, and you can put a percentage of the field just based on, larger event scales and what's been doing well. Whereas a specific team might be focused in on a niche type of deck or specific techs. So you kind of have to focus on each team differently week to week. Whereas like a tournament to tournament, the typical decks people are playing are more or less the same with like minor differences, and there's just a wider field of decks you have to cover for. Whereas you can kind of change your main decks as well as your side decks to focus in on more specifically, like specific strategies rather than like a wider field of strategies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Marcus hit it on the head there. It's with tournaments, you got to prepare for the full field. So you're gonna prepare for your warriors, your turbos, your burn matchups. But in the War League, you can kind of catch a trend of what this team likes to do. So some teams tend to be turbo centric, so you can probably main deck pre against them a little bit, and side. Sometimes I've heard players don't even side for burn against certain teams. So there is a lot of strategy involved in the decks, deck building, and also you can pre as well to some extent. So the metagame is slightly different, but again, it's also down to luck as well, because if you're preparing for a turbo heavy team and they pull two burn decks out, then you're gonna get cooked. So it's a mind game as well in itself.
Yeah, and a lot of really good teams I know will keep people on their toes by mixing up the decks occasionally and mixing up the card choices. I think also one thing I'll add is in the War League, you can get away with certain like smokescreen type strategies and stuff where in a tournament people will see the replays, they'll know that you're siding into a different strategy. I think in something like War League you can experiment more with things like that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into it. I know I didn't mention this in the intro, but there are a lot of teams in the War League, so they were split up into conferences. We have the Red Conference and the Blue Conference. Everybody in the Red Conference during the regular season will play each other once, and same with the Blue Conference, and then, of course, they'll kind of intermingle in the playoffs. So we're going to start in the Red Conference with Birdcage. I personally am friends with a few of the people on this team, Nova Ethos, Bluetooth, and others. Great people. Last season they went 4-6. I've got them going 5-6 this season. What do you guys think about Birdcage?
I've got them down as 5-6. Originally I had them 4-7, but I think they had a strong end to the last season, defeating Overdose as well. So they've proven they can beat the top teams as well. If we're looking at their previous season, I always look at players who are either neutral or positive, and a lot of these players are either neutral or positive. So that's good signs straight off the bat. They're all good players, and there's no weak link, I don't think. So they're in with a playoff shot, I would say, potentially, if they can start strong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely get the take. I was bouncing between 5-6 and 4-7. Ultimately, I did end up going with 4-7, and I think like the big tiebreaker to me was they just don't have a turbo player who consistently does well, and I think that's very big. And you'll hear me bring that up for a few teams, to be honest. If you have one person who can like run through and get you to like a 7 wins individually, typically they're very strong on turbo. Or there's very few exceptions, and those are just like the top of the top warrior players. And unless they have one guy who goes on a large win streak like that, I just find it very hard to like get to even, and even's either 5-6 or 6-5 really, because it's odd number of weeks. So I have them just below that. I will say I know Bluetooth has gotten a lot better as a player, so his record is not representative of him as a player. I think towards the end of the season he went to some GGPs and did really well.
Yeah, top 1 or 2 of them, I believe.
Yep. And then Undefined as well. Both of them I've met personally. So I don't think their records are a great indicator. And then, like Shifty said, they got a lot of 50-50 records. So would not surprise me at all if this team ended up like 6-5. But if I had to put money down, just because there's a lot of good teams also, I have them at 4-7.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, moving on now to Bomb Squad. What do you guys think about Bomb Squad? They look pretty solid to me. Looks like mostly Italians from what I can see. I know Michel Cimino had a pretty good season last year. Great turbo player. Like you mentioned, Marcus, you got to have one of those really anchor turbo players to rely on throughout the season. So I have them going 6-5.
Yeah, I think we kind of have that across the board. Sorry for the spoiler, but yeah, this is one of those where we all pretty much agree. That they're a team that they got some good keystone players, and then even people who haven't played a whole ton, but we know are pretty good. Like I know Zoidberg didn't play a lot last year, but he's done really well in the past.
Yeah.
I know Beast Mode is a quality player just from watching his YouTube content, how he thinks things through and whatnot. And then a lot of these players I don't know all that well, but it's just the ones I do know, as well as people like Ivan telling me he thinks this team's actually really good. I had to push him up to 6-5.
This one's kind of tough because I think they're one of those teams where they could either do above average or they can do below average, because they've got obviously Zoidberg. Season 2 he had a great season, and in match 5, if you put him on match 5 on a tiebreaker point, he will get the job done. So he's obviously a good player. We got Michel Cimino, who's FLC champion as well. He won the Clown Down as well, so he can obviously play turbo. Artswan is a GFC champion. Won it, I think, one of the early ones, but it's still a championship. I'm not sure how active he's been lately, but he can obviously play. And the rest of the team, I'm not too sure on the rest of them, but I'm assuming they're decent players at at the minimum. So yeah, again, it's a good team. They could do well, they could do below average, but we'd have to wait and see.
Yeah, I played against Stupale last season. We had a really close match, and yeah, I don't know anything about Buccaneer or Cardi. That's one of the things as we kind of go through these rosters. You know, usually we're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the teams that have the most experience in War League, because it really does, you know, it is meaningful having the experience in the War League. So if we see names we don't know, usually we'll, you know, tend to give them a less favorable prediction, but we'll see. They could have an amazing season. Next, we are moving on to Bones. It went 5-5 last year. I've got them going 5-6. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I'll kick this off. So Bones is the sister team, and I've got them down going 6-5. I do believe they will make the playoffs this season. They're probably the most unlucky team in War League history so far, because they've bubbled every single time. So they're just on the cusp, and they've been, I don't know if you can say unlucky or maybe some bad decisions in the end, but they have got the potential, and I think this time they're going to crack it. They've got some new recruits this time, and well, just starting with the established players, we're looking at Godart, positive warrior player, 6-5 record last season. Tiso, very strong as well. Filtro Fiore, he can mix it up with the burn and the panda and the cat stuff. And Shaves is a turbo player. He's a bit negative last season, so hopefully he can bring that up a bit. And with the new players, we've got El Duelist Pokédex. He's a ladder player primarily. We picked him up. He's shown some good signs on the turbo deck. Pike Freak from Switzerland. He's also can play turbo and Quish turbo. JPEGs. Now with JPEGs, I would say watch out for this player. I've watched him and I've seen him play, and I think he's got a good future. Same with Icomangelo. He's also a very good player. And just to add on that, we did an internal tournament, and all these new guys did well in it. So I do believe they've got a lot of promise, and I strongly believe they're going to make playoffs this season.
Bones is just one of those teams that kind of under the radar is always in playoff contention at the end of the year, and all eyes are kind of on them to either win or lose, whether it's for them to get in or for someone else to get in. And because of that, it's hard to bet against them being in the playoff picture. So I also have them at 6-5. They're going to be one of those teams that I think yet again is on the cusp. Whether they get in or not, it's just going to come down to how they finish, I think. Ultimately, though, there's some really quality players on the team. They got that core. Always worried to play against Godot. Should be interesting.
And I know, Shifty, you're notoriously known for being a pretty good recruiter, so I'm interested to see these new guys in action. I'm sure it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for them, honestly. I've seen them play, and they play well. I must say, they do play well.
All right, next we are looking at Damage Step. Had a pretty good season last year, ended up making the playoffs, going 6-4. I have them going 6-5 this season. A lot of quality duelists on this team, obviously. I was interested to see that Crowdad was not playing this year. He had a really good season for them last year on Damage Step, playing Turbo, but still otherwise a very quality roster of a lot of good duelists that are recognizable in this community.
Yeah, so originally I think I had them at 6-5 as well. But then when I construct a roster of 5 people, their best 5 most weeks, I just really think they have a very strong chance of making playoffs and 7-4. When I was going across the teams, I picked out specifically 4 teams that I thought, their starting 5 would beat these guys. So long as their luck is average, I really do think they're going to be 7-4. Would not be surprised though if, like you said, Crawdad being gone, that could be pretty big. Would not be surprised if they did go 6-5, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they went like 8-3.
Yeah.
So I've got them down 7-4. They could be 6-5. They are a hard team to predict this season. Looking across their team is very solid overall. They've added Cameron as well, and Necro and Derek. So Necro's, I've heard he's very good with his planning, so that should be able to help with the prep. They've got Psychotic, strong warrior player. They've got Soul as well, who's a good turbo player. So they've got a good balance as well. So yeah, I expect this team to do pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned, Marcus, I think is a good thing to point out as you talk about the starting 5, because when we look at these rosters, we see one or two players that are really good in certain teams, and then the rest of the team is kind of unknowns. It's not only about having some great duelists on your team, but having depth as well is very important to success in the War League, because you just need consistency. You need people that are going to put up wins week after week and bring a good performance to the table every single week, because that's really what it boils down to. That depth matters so much, especially in the regular season where one win is worth one win. So you gotta have a consistent roster. All right, so now we are looking at the new Evil organization, captained by one of the best warrior players in our game, STL Killa. This team looks very strong. Looks like some new faces as well. I am a big fan of Ricksaw, kind of up and coming duelists, and this team looks very, very strong. A lot of good duelists on this team. I got them going 7-4 with a solid playoff finish.
Yep, I've also got them down for 7-4. Probably they can edge 8-3 as well, because their roster is super powerful. I think they've got two warrior gods. They've got Sparky Flary and STL Killer, and that when you've got two warrior gods on your team, it's an automatic threat, and it opens up your turbo players. So all of a sudden, John Wick becomes powerful. Krebs becomes stronger. They've got NB96 as well. He's starting to play the turbo. He can also play the return. He's a champion in his own right. Rixa as well. I've seen some good things from him coming up. Evil Betchy, he's probably one of the best rookies coming out from last year as well. He's really been playing well and got some good results. And to wrap it off, they got Grumple Steelshin. He's a former Worst Gen member. I know him very well. We talk a lot. He likes the Thunderclap, or the PAL deck as they call it. Again, he's always wanting to improve, and we talk a lot, and he's growing every day. So
he had a really good season 2 as well. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
He's a very strong player and great potential. So very scary roster. I wouldn't want to play him.
No.
Yeah, definitely strong across the board. If we were entering season 2 and I saw this team, I probably would have them at 9-2 or 8-3. Some of these people have had like a down year or so, but in general, I mean, it's not much to get back in this game. Like just recently, we had John Wick finishing top 4 at Worlds. He's an absolute monster when he's on. When SDL is playing his best game, he can go toe to toe with anyone. And yeah, he's often considered by many a warrior god. Sparky Flary coming off 8-3. There's a lot of quality players. You can kind of go through each one of these people and list off things you like. Maybe 7-4 was hedging down. I could easily see an 8-3 as well. It's just, they got to get hot at the right time, I think, though. I think if they're 5-6 wins heading into the home stretch, that they might finish with 8 and then be a really scary threat in the playoffs.
We are now looking at the Mandalorians, a relatively new team. Pretty much all new players to the War League besides Mr. Law. This is where I decided to take my stand, make a little hot take here. Just from my familiarity playing with a few of these duelists, I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're going to be one of these up-and-coming teams that just makes an impact. I originally had them 6-5. I toned down my hot take just a little bit, went 5-6. But I don't know. I just have a feeling. I've played against a few of these duelists before. Pimh or however you pronounce his name. Snack is a really good duelist in Edison format. So I have a feeling they're gonna surprise some people, but at the same time, relatively unknown. So it's really hard to predict how they're gonna do.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is I really just don't know most of these duelists, and typically that means they're not the most familiar with War League, and prep is a huge part of it. That's like early on when you were asking us like how we prep. I think that's a huge part, and there's specific players on teams that are specifically there because of how good they are at the prep portion, even if their gameplay is like not all the way there. And with that said, it's really hard for me to believe a team can walk in here and be in playoff contention. Because when I see 5-6, 6-5, that means you think they're right there on the cusp, and it's just really hard to do. I hope I'm proven wrong. I love having more competition and shaking things up, but with how little I know about a lot of these people, I just kind of hedge down without trying to be too disrespectful.
I completely agree. The only player I know from here is Mr. Law and Snack. I think Snack had a good run in one of the FLCs. The rest of them, I don't know. And if I don't know them, then yeah, they're either unknown or they're new or they don't play online much. I'm not sure, but I put them at 3-8. So I think that's fair for a relatively unknown team. But I'm happy if they can surprise me.
Definitely.
It's good to have more competition. So definitely, good luck to them.
We are moving on to Nemesis. These are some notable names that have been around for a while. I believe this is mostly a Greek squad. If correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, a lot of notable duelists on this team. I obviously am a little lower on them. Probably could have given them a little better of a record, but just based off of what I saw last season, 4 and 7, I expect we'll probably see more of the same. I know they have some interesting deck choices they sometimes bring to the table to their detriment, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what do you guys have?
I've got them down 5 and 6. They're on the cusp again. They're the primary Greek team. I know a lot of these players. We got Kotsos, who's the captain. He can play. I think he's leaning more towards turbo. Zogler, he's an obelisk champion, very good as well on turbo or return. Maru as well. That's a good boost for him because they've got a burn god in their team, so that's going to obviously play in the opponent's heads. Marvin is he's a warrior play as well, and he's been doing okay at the start of this season. Evans, GR, he's a solid turbo player, and Punisher and Geronimo as well, some decent turbo players. So they've got a good roster, and they've got a chance of playoffs, I believe, as long as they play well and they get their game plan on point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also have them at 5 and 6. This is one of those teams where they could finish and make the back end of playoffs, and it would not surprise me whatsoever, to be honest. There's some people on here like I remember in the 3v3, I think Kodo, Zogler, and Maru had a pretty good run. Maru just did really well at Worlds, and I'm terrified to play him and his burn strategy, to be honest, because he plays that deck as good as anyone. And so I do think some of these records are a little deceiving. Would not be surprised if they have a similar finish to last year, like 3 or 4 wins, but I don't know. So, something tells me that this team might be in that playoff picture at the end of the year, and 5 or 6 wins would put them right there. So I if I had to guess, I have them at 5 and 6, but they do have a wide range of outcomes, I think.
Moving on to the Pigpen. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a bit biased here. This is my team. My squad, we had a 4 and 6 finish last year, but I think that's also a little deceiving. We had a lot of really close 2-3 losses early in the season that kind of set us behind. But ultimately, also, I think some of these records are a bit deceiving. Epoxy, I think, is an amazing control player, really, really good. Major Sam coming back into the league, he was on hiatus last year, really good turbo player. Plays some other decks as well. We picked up Ronnie Tsunami, who had a good season last year. And overall, like I said, I'm a bit biased, but I am really hoping for a playoff push this year and a solid finish to the season.
Yeah, so I was actually bouncing between 5-6, 6-5, and 7-4. So I ended up going in the middle at 6-5. I do think there are some really quality players on this team. I think Grace, you're very strong. I think JJ Stokes, I see him on ladder, I think, all the time. Ronnie is a solid player. I actually know him like IRL. I've talked theory and stuff with him IRL, and he just knows his stuff. Like, I think that in general, you guys have a strong roster. I think where you guys lack a little bit is not having that 7th, 8th player for depth. And even if it's just like having another person on a strategy that will be strong into certain matchups, right? So I do think that can suffer as it's really hard to have specific players who are just gods on multiple decks. Not everyone's as blessed to have like a Lucas on their team, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's why I ended up here at 6 and 5. I do think you guys will be in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I've got this team at 6 and 5. I mean, I think purely because I know Grace and Pia Epoxy are very good players. Pocho as well. Pocho's very good as well. He can mix it up with the Earth strategy as well. JJ Stokes is a good, reliable turbo player. I'm not familiar with Majo Sam, and Ronnie Tsunami 7-4 record is very impressive. I never knew that about him. So overall, it's a strong squad, but I'm a bit worried because last season was 4-6 and they've lost 2 of the star players. It was Ray Saber and Guillaume Man. So I'm worried about that aspect, but it could turn out that everyone else steps up. So we'll have to wait and see. But I've got them down 6-5. I think it's fair. Could be higher, but not enough for me to put them up to 7-4.
All right. Moving on to Purple Haze B. To be perfectly honest, I know nothing about any of these duelists, so I went ahead and gave it a 3-8 record to end the season. You guys know any of these duelists personally?
Yeah, Purple Haze B team. It looks like Italian team. Probably the sister team of Purple Haze A team. I'm assuming they're probably offline players who play in the local scene. I don't know any of these players. I've played Tarantino's Coffee online. I think it was on the Turbo strategy. So I'm assuming they're all either average or above, and they're a decent team, but they're new to the league. So we'll have to wait and see how they adapt. And I've also got them down as a 3-8.
Yeah, I too have them as 3-8, similar to the Mandalorians. I just don't know a lot about these guys, and with that said, it's really hard to come into the War League without a lot of experience behind you and really succeed against these teams that have been doing it for a while and kind of understand the best game plans. And so even if these are all quality duelists, it's just really hard to come in and have a great season right away. So I went 3-8. To be honest, I initially had 2-9, but I feel like I can't say they're going to be bad because I don't know if they're good or bad. So I just went with the 3-8 record.
Yep, makes sense. All right, we're now looking at Relapse. This is one of those rosters that just immediately jumps off the page. I mean, pretty much everybody on this team is a monster. Of course, Ivan Rosito. You have Dale Bolito. I mean, it goes on and on. Moxies. These are just some of the cream of the crop best players in GOAT format. This team looks very scary. It looks like one of those teams that immediately is going to be in playoff contention. I've got them going 9-2, having a really, really solid season. I'm definitely not looking forward to playing this team in our conference.
Yeah, I have them as 10-1 and the best record in War League. I just think every single player on this team is a quality player. They've got guys who can play different decks, so they're not locked into being just Turbo or just Warrior or anything. And you just got killers. I mean, their whole team just consists of top 20 players. So there's not much else to say other than they're going to be one of, if not the best team this year.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to disagree. You just look at the list of names, and they're all either champions or fantastic players. So I've got them down for 9-2, and also I'd say they've got a good theory crafting as well. They've got Ivan, the Moxie, Spiral, Marcus as well. They're all good theory crafters, and that will help with their prep, and they can play as well to back it up. So one of the most dominant teams for sure in the league. So definitely very scary.
We are now looking at Safari. Went 5-5 last season. I've got them going 8-3 this season. I think from what happened last year, I have a feeling that the Safari guys, I'm sure you can speak to this, Marcus, are a bit motivated to improve their regular season record after not making the playoffs last year. Definitely an underperformance according to expectations. So I think they're going to bounce back really strong this year with an 8-3 finish. You have tons of great duelists. Everybody knows AJT BLS, of course. Marcus Hayden. Rabbit has been on a tear lately of wins. Is really solidifying himself as one of the best Warrior players in our game. And also, I from what I understand, a really great prepper as well for each week.
Yeah, so I'm going to take over real quick, and I have us at 9-2. So it's just, so last year was really weird. There's a lot of discourse between the team. We lost Lucas midseason. Soulmaster left at the end of this season to go play with his brother. Just a lot of weird things came up in chat. I don't want to air anything. That 5-5 record, I don't think showed who we were. And similar to you, Grace, we had a lot of close losses in weeks where we were subbing in players in non-ideal situations and stuff. Whereas this year, I think we have a great mindset. I think the addition of Wavement is huge. He's a Chicagoland player as well. I know him personally. See him at all the GGPs around here. He's fantastic. Stealing him from your guys' team over at Worst Gen. Sorry, Shifty. But yeah, and then also if you just look at recently, Rabid's been on a tear. AJT, Wavement, Tight End, Fresh, myself, and Mercenary all topped worlds. I just think we're set up and in a great position to start this season. And going from War League champions in season 2 to a 5-5 record, definitely surprising. Might be a little bit high. I just think we have great prep. I think Rabbit's a cheat code because he'll literally build people's decks, and we'll prep with those. And he has like a 98% hit rate when you watch the replays. Like, he goes so deep in his studying that it's crazy, and he's almost always right when he predicts what everyone's going to play. Especially like the players that they could be on like 2 or 3 different decks. Still, just I don't know how he does it, man. But I just think our team is set up for success this year. I think Wavement and Fresh started off pretty slow last year and then picked up, finished with 6-3 record. And Wavement and Tight End, the 3 new additions throughout the season last year, and then the start of this season, I think are huge for us.
Just on the Wavement topic, yeah, I was. He told us he wanted to leave, play with the IRL players. I was gutted, but again, happy for him as well. So we did wish him the best of luck as well in his new home, Safari. Onto the roster. I mean, this roster on paper, they should be hitting playoffs every single time. The depth and the strength of all these players is fantastic. The thing that worried me was if the prep was good, but as Marcus just mentioned, Rabbit is the main prep guy. So if he's got his prep on point, then this team, I've gone down for 8-3. But again, they can easily go 9-2 and above if the prep is right and they play well. So fantastic team, another scary opponent to play in the Red Conference.
Oh yeah, and another quick thing to throw in. For the first like 5 or 6 weeks last year with Rabid, he was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna kind of be inactive." So we didn't have any of his Godly prep to start the year last year because he had some stuff going on in his personal life. But now I think everyone's back and ready, and I think we're gonna be a force.
All right, moving on now to Solitaire. This was a team that I believe we saw do really well, made a very deep run in Season 2, and then in Season 3, I think the team kind of went inactive, and they scrambled the squad back together for Season 4. A lot of the names are different, but still some of the same core. We saw Flocky, Gote or Goat, Six Lack, and others. Honestly, some really quality duelists, kind of similar to the Pigpen, maybe lacking a little bit of depth. From what I'm aware of these duelists, I think all really solid players.
They're missing Necro and Derek from the main roster. They've added a 80% win rate player, so that's going to be good if you've got an 80% win rate player in your team. Gote as well, I think he's really good, like top 20 material. I think he's that good. And the rest of the players are also very good. If you look across the team, it's a small roster, which could play in the hands as well. It could be a benefit if they just start with the best 5 players every time. It's a solid team. I've got them down at 5-6, but that could easily be 6-5 as well.
Yeah, I have them at 6-5. I will say I just completely blanked on Necro and Derek not being there. So moving them down to 5-6 definitely warranted. But like you were saying, I think Goat is very, very solid. Season 2, I think he had like 8 wins, 9 wins or something. He had a really, really strong season 2. And then, yeah, I mean, they just got good players across the board. They're definitely a threat to beat even any of the top teams any given week. So 6-5, they'll be in the playoff hunt for sure.
All right. Moving on now to the Blue Conference. Now looking at the 400s. This team, just top to bottom, looks really solid. You, of course, have Lucas. WGM performs every single season. Purple Drunk is, one of those top 20 players we talk about. I think this roster looks really solid, top to bottom. You, of course, have, world champion Dingo Sig in the mix, Soulmaster Matt. I mean, so many great duelists, tons of depth. Play a lot of different decks. You have Control, you have Warriors, you have Turbo players all in this lineup. I think they're going to go 8-3, improve from their Season 3 record to a solid finish.
I also have them at 8-3. They're full of quality duelists. I especially know Lucas and Soulmaster from being former Safari members really well. And the Season 2 Lucas had, I think he's going to replicate more similar to that than his 6-5 record. He's really, really strong player. Purple Drunk's really good player. I've talked to him a little bit. WGM, I feel like always consistently is having that sort of 6-3, like pretty strong record. And they also bring you a different look. They're one of the teams that'll have some chaos control, which always makes it awkward for teams with really good warrior players because they kind of have to pivot and adjust their sides, which then you're not focused on the great turbo players that they have and the great warrior players that they have. And yeah, so I just think they got a good balance, good range of decks, and especially if they get all their players involved, I think 8-3, possibly even 9-2 would not surprise me.
Yeah, I've got them down at 8-3. The previous record was 6-4, but I don't know. It seems like they're weaker from last season as well. So it's kind of strange. They've lost, obviously, the world champion, but again, they've still got so much quality in the team. Lucas as well stands out. Gangster Bro, fantastic turbo.
Yeah.
Well, Purple and Gangster, both fantastic turbo players. They've got Soulmaster Matt, fantastic warrior player. They can mix it up with IMZ1. He can play CC or the turbo deck. WGM, he can play. Well, he can play a lot of stuff. He can surprise everyone. And Kirst as well, a good, very good warrior player. So very solid roster all around. And I've got him down for 8-3. I think that's a fair prediction.
Now looking at the Bug Catchers, another newer team. I have them going 5-6. Really a lot of new names, people that didn't play in the War League last year, but I do recognize some of these names. Loger, you've seen him grinding a lot. I know Tegalik from Edison, a really solid Edison format duelist, as far as I'm aware. I really highly value those skills. If I see someone that's really good in other formats, I think in some ways they can transfer it over to GOATs. I think they'll actually surprise some people and have a fairly solid finish, though still a lot of unknowns, so I can't put them much higher than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got them down as 4-7, purely because I don't know many of these players, but I've seen a bit of clear vision on Loger, and they seem to be promising. Planchy as well as the captain, who's been a consistent player throughout. Relatively unknown team. I give them 4-7. Give them a bit of credit. They're under Ivan's guidance, so they might do better as well.
I also have them at 4-7. There's just a lot of unknown, but I mean, if it's a team that's kind of backed by a really strong player, one of the best, I will say if Zach is who I think he is, I think I know him IRL. He is a very strong player as well. I've seen Logger in Cosmos Discord, and I feel like he's always grinding and stuff too. So would not be surprised if this team comes out and shocks us. But you know, if I had to play it safe, that's I'm going to give them that 4-7.
Yeah, it's definitely
prediction.
It's definitely tough with these newer teams because when we see every season there is a new team that comes into the War League that just completely flops and burns to the ground right off the bat, or we have new teams that really surprise people and put up solid finishes. So it'll be interesting to see these newer teams. We are now looking at the Formula, a team that has been on the rise, on the come up. They've improved their roster, I would say, over last year. Went on a 6-4 finish. Last year, we see the addition of Dueling High 101, who has been really doing well lately, playing Warriors, won the most recent PWCQ. We see Krina, 5-2 record last year, really solid duelist. Hernie Hog had a really good season last year, 8-3, as well as Kit. Wow, I'm seeing just a lot of really positive records from last year. I know Kit had a good run at Worlds. So yeah, it looks like just a really solid team of duelists on the come up. This is one of those teams that was, kind of a sister team and has really kind of grown into their own form, and it's cool to see.
Yeah, no, I think this team is fantastic. I initially had them at an 8-3 record, but going through this conference, there's a lot of teams I had in that range, so I had to switch a lot to 7-4, and they just got quality 5 starters. It extends to 6 and 7 even, and then I don't know some of the players as well, but I just know a lot of these people are really dedicated to getting better at GOAT. Especially I know Cosmo and then their whole server. They had a War League sort of practice league. They take this very seriously, and with all the great records and a lot of great players already on this team, any given week, Kit, Hernie Hog, Karina, Dueling High, they can just take over and outright win a lot of weeks, I think.
I'll also add a Scrub, really good. Coming off a Patreon win, kind of newer onto the scene. He's been really solid, and he's going to be a great warrior player addition for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Scrub for Life and Dueling High both got the invites off the Patreon wins. I think Dueling High being added to the roster really really helps them out a lot. This team, they made the playoffs last season as well, and I think a lot of it comes down to their prep. Like Marcus touched on that in their survey, their theory crafting and their desire to get better is probably one of the best I've seen from any team. So when you've got a team that's hungry and they play well, they're always going to do well. So I've got them down as 7-4, and I would expect this team in playoffs.
Next up is the Last Spartans, one of those teams that I have no idea, not familiar with pretty much any of these players, so I went ahead and gave them a 3-8 record just based off of not having the experience, and I don't know any of these names. What do you guys think?
So for me, I'm pretty sure this is the second Greek team. Initially, I had them at 3-8 for the respect thing, but I figured if the primary Greek team is more of their stronger players, and this is just me guessing, that this team, without the War League experience and not having all the best Greek players, might be a little bit worse. So I have them at 2-9. I really hope I get proven wrong. Literally, all these new teams, I love when a new team comes in and just smashes really good teams.
Same.
Because when you see that happen, like I felt like that's what we were seeing from Formula last year. It's sweet because no one expects it, and it gets a lot of people knocked down a peg. Really hope that happens, but this is just my prediction for how little I know.
I think adding on to that, I like seeing, like you mentioned, those new teams come into the scene and do really well. I think it kind of puts some of the like more veteran GOAT format players in check, because you got to constantly work on your craft, and even if you were really good 2 or 3 years ago, you got to stay on top of the meta and not get rusty. And sometimes that happens, people get complacent or just take a break from the game, and you got to constantly be working on your game to get better. And sometimes these new players that have really put in the time and work will come in and like you mentioned, start smashing some of the better teams. It's really fun to see.
The Last Spartans, so I think this is the sister team. Well, I think it's a secondary Greek team. I'm assuming it's probably part of their locals, so it's probably a bunch of guys part of the locals. I don't know many of these guys, to be honest, but I think they're mostly offline players and entering the online world, so that should be fun. I've got them down as a 2-9 record, so I was a bit savage on that, but that's purely because they're the sister team of the Greek team. So I think they're fairly new, translating over to online and coming into the most competitive environment. So I think it's going to be quite tough for them.
Yeah.
But I do wish them all the best.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, even all these teams, if we give them a negative record like that, we of course want to see new teams do well. Next is Laos Nova. Another team I'm really not familiar. I kind of recognize a few of these names potentially from ladder. I think this may be an Italian squad. So I think that a lot of the Italian squads have a lot of really good fundamentals because there's a lot of IRL play that happens in Italy. So we'll see. I've got them 3-8. Just a lot of unknown factors here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I've got them down as 2-9 again, purely because it looks like an Italian team translating over from the offline scene, coming over, and again, that's going to be super tough. I don't recognize any of these players outside of Casalipo, so again, I've got them down as a quite low record, but if they're part of the Italian team scene, rather, they probably got good competition around them, so they could potentially do a lot better. But I've got them down for 2-9 at the moment.
Yeah, so I also have like 2-9 or 3-8. I bounce back and forth only because the more I think about Shifty saying these are local players, I didn't know that coming into this, but if they are local players and IRL players, I mean, that's kind of how the essence of Safari came to be. And I know there could be really quality players who just don't play online. So I'm going to go ahead and say 3-8 for now, but I really hope, once again, I love the new teams because I really hope they just come in and shake up the scene.
All right. Now we have Masters of Oz. I believe this is a mostly Australian team. Very cool to see. I love seeing all these different teams from different regions and stuff. I think it's really interesting, and I just think it brings a lot to the table, and just having this kind of worldwide GOAT League, I think is really cool in my opinion. So, of course, this team, captained by Jace, I think really, really solid duelist. Plays a lot of decks to a very high level. Very, very good, and no disrespect at all to the rest of this squad, but he definitely carried the team to a 5-6 finish last year. I expect maybe we'll see, kind of more of the same next year. It would be cool if some of these other people that are on this squad as well, good season too, and improve their records from last year.
I've got them at 5-6 again, sort of repeating. I do think they've got some quality pieces, especially Jace, but also them being primarily from Australia. I feel like that can hurt them a lot because I feel like oftentimes they're playing to other people's time zones.
Yeah.
And they got to play at awkward times a lot, and I know that can be a frustration and something that's really, really tough. I complain when I have to play anyone in a different time zone to my team all the time, but that's quite literally every single week for them. I think a repeat of last year, and maybe one more win or one more loss is most likely.
Masara's Australian team, I think they've got the star players, obviously Jace, fantastic player, and they've added DGZ Rampage as well, who's also a very good warrior player. So he should be able to help him out. But overall, I just remember watching a lot of the replays, and I was watching, they've made some mistakes or misplays, as you can call them. So that's just stuck in the back of my head. So I've put them down to a 4-7. But who knows? Maybe they've improved and maybe they can surprise us as well.
One of the newer form teams, Perfect Circle, another team that immediately jump off the page. A lot of really solid duelists here. Of course, Ludo coming off of the World Championship. LeBounty, everybody knows Jonathan LeBounty, 9-1 record last year. Probably the best warrior player in GOATS. This team looks really good. Fancy, it continually plays really well. Of course, Ghost Rider. This team looks stacked in my opinion. A lot of really great duelists. I've got them finishing 7-4. What do you guys think?
I've got them down as 9-2 purely because I think they're one of the best teams in the Blue Conference. They've got like you said, LeBounty, arguably one of the best warrior players. They've got Ludo, who's one of top 5 player in his own right. And they've got Fancy as well. Fancy and Ghost, both fantastic turbo players. And the 5th spot, I think, I'm not so sure on Cincy James. I've never seen him play, but if he's a good Edison player, usually that translates well over to GOATs. They've got Matt Uber as well on the Steingate, and Ever as well. He's a good turbo player as well. I remember I think it was season 2 or season 3, he made a world class play, setting his Moth with no spells to play around the mind control, and then next turn doing double charity, I think it was. But yeah, that really stood out to me. So they're a fantastic team on paper, so I'm expecting them to do very well.
Yeah, I mean, they have quality players across the board. I was between 8-3 and 9-2. I ultimately went 8-3 because, like I said earlier, there's just a lot of teams in this conference where I see them having anywhere from 6 to 9 wins, and I kind of round down on a lot of these. So I do have them at 8-3. I mean, across the board, great players with a lot of different decks. They got warrior players, they got standalone turbo players. I mean, the addition of James is really good. Getting those guys over from Elite Four from last year added to the squad, like LeBounty, Fancy, Ghost, really strong. You got the world champion, really strong. Matt Uber's a nightmare for any team to play against because of the strategies that he brings. Ever2 is also just really strong. I mean, 4-1 record, nothing to scoff at. Good history just in general. I just think they don't really have a weak player on their team, and I'm sure their prep is going to be fantastic as well. So,
yeah, I'll also mention, like having Matt Uber on your team. He only played 2 matches last year, but he's a notoriously very, very good Steingate player, Reasoning Gate strategy type player, and just even having someone on your roster that does that really throws off your opponent's siding strategies, because they're gonna have to dedicate cards to that strategy because just for the potential that Matt Uber comes in. So even if he doesn't play, just having him on your roster really takes up your opponent's siding spots, basically, just knowing that that threat is always there. All right, we are now looking at Purple Haze. This team looks very strong. Another one right off the bat, captained by Gyomberman. I got to play with him last year on the Pigpen. Really, really good duelist. I mean, his overall record in the War League is fantastic. He can play control, turbo to a very, very high level. Leo P. Didn't have a great last season, but is a fantastic control player. I'm a big fan of Ray Saber 7. I think he is a very underrated Chaos Turbo duelist. It just looks like a really, really solid team across the board.
Yeah, so I have a 6-5 record, which should probably be 7-4. Like as I went through this, I think the Blue Conference might be slightly stronger because there's just a lot more teams I can see at 6, 7, 8 wins.
Hmm.
But I had them at 6-5 mostly because when I look at this team, I do think that there's a lot of good players, but the teams that I see getting 7, 8 wins typically have 2 or 3 of those like top 10 or top 15 players, and I just don't see that yet. Though there's a lot of players on here trending towards that. It would not surprise me in the least if this team finishes with 8 wins. It would not surprise me if they finish with the 6 wins. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got them down 7-4, and that's purely because the Blue Conference is very powerful. Leo P 2-7 record, but he's a lot better than that. Ray Saber, I think, yeah, he's also a very underrated player as well. A very fine turbo player. They've got what else? They've got Vogue as well. He comes second at the SDG National with 200 players. That was won by Ray Saber. So they've also got Dangy Boss, who's got the Earth strategy. Alex the Man as well, who's a newer player, but he's showing good promise and he's always willing to learn and get better. So I think they're a very good team, very strong team. 7-4, I've got them down. They potentially could go 8-3, I would say, but 7-4 I think is fair.
What's kind of standing out to me looking at these two conferences is it seems to me like the Blue Conference has a bit more of a wider spread. I feel like you have these top teams and then some newer teams that might potentially be kind of a punching bag, whereas in the Red Conference I think there's some more kind of middling teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, 100% agree.
We're now looking at Team Rehab, captained by Bobby Bodega. You, of course, have Anthony Alvarado in the mix, always putting up solid numbers in the War League season after season. Alefia, too, always on unique strategies, throwing people off guard. It looks like a really solid team right off the bat. They picked up Dropped Off, who as far as I'm aware, is one of those ladder players who is getting into the War League this year, who I know is a very, very solid Chaos Turbo player, but I think he can play other decks as well. I think that's a great addition to the team. I have them going 6-5. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think 6-5 is fair. I've got them at 7-4 personally, and I think that's purely because they've got Ant as well, who's he's good at his theory, etc., and he's obviously one of the best players in GOATs as well. Looking down the roster, they can start their top 5 players, and it's going to be very tough for any team to beat them. So I think 7-4, they've got a good chance to do better than that. But I think it's one of those, it could go very well or it could go wrong as well. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I also personally have him at 7-4. I mean, I know a lot, like Dropped Off. I was actually the one who added him to the server. We were talking some Chaos Turbo stuff after Worlds, and I saw he was showing me that he played ladder. I was like, oh, you should join the War League, and sure enough, does not surprise me at all that he ended up on a really good team. And then Bobby Bodega, 3v3 partner of mine, go on and we won. I know he's really quality. Alvarado, obviously one of the best to do it. Alefia, extremely great player. I mean, they don't really have a single bad player on their team. Les had a great record last year. Swisky's good. Indus is good. I don't know as much about Trishula, but they don't really have a bad player on their team. So I thought 7-4 was very solid. My fear for this team would be if they lose a little bit more early, if some of them switch over to the sister team. And then that might bring their record down. But if they stick with this roster throughout the year, I think they're a playoff team.
All right, moving over to UI. Ultra Instinct did not have a good season last year, went 2-8, pretty below expectations, but they picked up Carl Waite this season, and I expect them to bounce back. There's a lot of really solid duelists on this team, and most notably to me, Gia76. She's a really good warrior player, aggro player, but can play a lot of decks to a very high level as well, turbo, burn. So I expect this team to bounce back this year. They Gibbonation back in the league as well. I've seen him very active in the Discords talking theory and stuff. AJ Hussein, a very underrated turbo player in my opinion. So this roster looks really strong to me. I expect they bounce back from a poor season last year.
Yeah, I think the addition of Carl is huge. Carl is I feel like he's been on a tear, at least in like the IRL scene. And when Carl's on and dedicated to the game, I think that's going to be really big for them if he's there. I have them at 6-5. I think that 2-8 record is one of the biggest surprises of all of last season. But I think they had some good additions, some good players coming back, and I mean, if I construct a starting five, they got 4 or 5 really powerful duelists, and I can see them making a good run.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, last season it seems like it was an anomaly of some sort. I think the Hearts weren't in it as such. They just played just for the sake of it. But I think if they've got the head screwed on this season, they can definitely achieve 7-4 and beyond. I've got them down at 6-5 purely based on last season, but their starting five can beat any team in the conference. So yeah, they are one to watch out for. So 6-5 record, potential to do better as well. Also, just to add, Indoors is back in the fray as well, and I think he's pretty good with the planning and prep, so that should help him a lot.
Next up is the underdogs. This team finished 3-7 last year. I think we're probably expecting more of the same. I've got them going 4-7 this year. However, I do think there's some sleepers on this team I want to point out. Zazzles is a really good warrior player, plays mostly like Gearfried warrior as far as I remember, one of the only people who actually plays that deck, so can catch people off guard. Yada88, notably known for playing the Mataza strategy to a pretty high level. I actually think Sarah X is a very good turbo player, underrated. So I think there is some sleeper picks in this team, but I've got them going 4-7.
I'll say I also have them going 4-7, similar to last year, but they've got some strong pieces. They got to put it together for a full season. This is definitely one of the teams, though, I will say I want to do really well. So this is like one of the teams more than any of the like other teams that we had ranked lower that I really want to do well. I love the name because it's so true to them, and always got to root for the underdogs. So.
Absolutely.
I've got them down as 3-8. I'm being a bit harsh purely because I think their teams maybe got worse from last season. It's hard to say, but they do have the War League experience. I'm not familiar with many of these names. You guys said they do have some strong pieces, so hopefully they can do well and prove their name as the underdogs.
And last but not least, we've got the worst generation. This is your team, Shifty, captained this year by Night Moves, who's a really solid warrior player. I mean, just another one of those rosters you look at, everybody is super solid. Of course, yourself, Shifty, the Saws, Don't Copy, both perpetually underrated, both fantastic duelists. Of course, JCVD last year was an absolute monster, 9-1, playing control in a Chaos Turbo saturated War League is not easy to do, and he absolutely dominated last year. Of course, Danny Casey, ladder grinder, and he's fantastic as well with both Warriors and Turbo. Pot the Master, you'll have to tell me a little more about him, Shifty. I know he had a really solid finish at Worlds, I believe. He topped Worlds. Yeah, just another really solid roster across the board. I've got them going 7-4. They went 9-1 last year. I don't know if they're going to be quite as hot again, but we'll see.
Yeah, step aside, boys. I'll take over from you. No, but, this is obviously my team. Just to put things into perspective, season 1 we finished second after regular season. Season 2 we made playoffs, so we made playoffs every time. Season 3 we finished first in both conferences, so I know what we can do, and all the players are super reliable. Oh, and if you look at our records, we're all positive, so that's a great start. We had Jean-Claude Van Damme, MVP last season. The roster speaks for itself, and I think also what helps us is we've got great planning as well with myself and Don't Copy, always in the lab searching on new things and new theories and ways to win. So a fantastic roster. I've got us down as 9-2. I've just got so much confidence in our ability, and we've got the Pot the Master as well, who made day 2 of Worlds. He's another fantastic turbo player and control player. So I've got high hopes.
I definitely would not be surprised if you guys were 9-2 or even 10-1, to be honest. I think you guys have one of the best rosters in the league. The addition of Pot the Master is actually pretty big. I played him twice at Worlds, both in Swiss and in the elimination bracket, and he's a very strong duelist. There's a specific play, I won't go into too much depth, but got baited Fortunately, I still ended up taking that match when we played, but he's very strong, so I do think that makes up for the loss of Wavement. And then, yeah, across the board, just strong players. The records speak for themselves every season. One of the teams you don't want to run into, especially in playoffs.
Before we close this out, I'm curious, let's all pick a team that we think could potentially win the league. Just one team that is not our own team, of course, to remove the bias, because we'd all pick our own team to win. But I think I'm going to go with Relapse as the team that I think is going to win the league. I think they just have such a solid roster across the board. They're just going to be so consistently tough to beat. So that's my pick.
We can't pick our own, like you said, because then it'd be way too easy. And looking down the list, I think this might be a little bit of a surprise to some people, and I just feel like they got some people that'll come up in big moments and some continuity. And especially, this is going to sound wild coming from me with the past that Safari's had with this team, but I'm going to say 400s.
Damn,
Wow.
400s. I like that pick.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we can't pick our own teams makes it a bit harder. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Relapse, just purely down to their roster.
Yep.
And their experience.
Is there anything else you guys want to add? Any shout outs you want to give or anything, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Safari, because I it's great having a team of players where I know all these guys are IRL, and I'm pretty good friends with some of these guys. And then I guess also shout out to TGS, my local card shop, and shout out to you for having us today. I love this kind of content, man. I really appreciate you reaching out and making this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a pleasure being on with you guys, and this is my favorite type of content. So it's been a pleasure being on here. I just want to wish all the teams good luck. And if there's anyone who wants to put a team in for next season or wants to join the league, I would strongly suggest doing that, because it's a hell of a lot of fun, and you build a lot of connections throughout the season, and with the players, and you build friendships. The ups and downs, it's a roller coaster. It's fantastic, honestly. So I'd definitely sign up if you haven't already.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and throw the link down in the description of this video, so check that out, the link to the GOAT Format War League Discord. I'll also go ahead and mention there is an Edison Format War League Discord as well, so if you're into Edison format, they're kind of, I think they're going to start up later in next year in 2024, but right now it is time for the GOAT Format War League. The season is about to start next week. The excitement is building. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Shifty. Thank you so much, Marcus. I really appreciate the time. You guys have a lot of great insight to bring to the table, and I really appreciate your time. I am looking forward to the War League. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until the next one, bye.